Retro game collecting can be a very expensive hobby, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. Today we are counting down 10 retro games on 10 different retro consoles that everyone needs in their collection. And the best part is, every game is £10 or under. This is cheap retro game collecting.
Game Pickups! Food in the Game World! Rush Trips! Night Game Hunting!
Hello again folks, and welcome to a very special episode, as today we are talking about cheap retro game collecting. We are looking at 10 different games across 10 different consoles, all of which cost £10 or under, which means you can either add some cheap bangers to your collection or start a retro game collection for under £100. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and please subscribe, as I put new videos every Saturday night at 5, as well as bonus content throughout the week like this one. I really want you folks along for the ride. And as you can see, I have built my game collection over many years, and I want to help you do the very same. I wanted this video to have something for everyone. Games from every genre on every console, and we are starting off on the NES, an absolutely fantastic console to collect for, and one myself I'm collecting for more hardcore in 2025 with my challenge, the NES Top 40 at 40, which over the course of the year I'm trying to build my dream NES collection of my 40 most wanted games. But this is a game which didn't make the list because I own both of these games separately. And it is mind-boggling. You can pick up this game from CX today for just £10. And it's a twofer. You get two of the best games ever released for the NES. Mario Bros and Duck Hunt. Two classics on one cartridge for just £10. And this is just the start of me showing you how retro gaming doesn't have to be expensive in 2025. We're carrying on the 8-bit console theme and moving from Nintendo to Sega and the Sega Master System, the first console I ever owned, and this game came bundled with my very first gaming console. And this is a game which I believe everyone needs in their collection, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And again, this is a cheap banger. You can pick this up complete with manual at CX for just £10. Now of course you can pick up a lot of these games cheaper if you either buy them loose or without the manual, but this is all about game collecting, and as collectors I'm presuming a majority of people want these CIB. But to be able to pick up this game, which is a fantastic side-scrolling platforming adventure speedy game, it just epitomizes everything that's great about the Master System, and for just £10 is a game everyone needs for their collection. We're moving on from the 8-bit era to the 16-bit generation and the Super Nintendo. Now arguably with this game it could negate the need to own Super Mario Bros and Duck Hunt for the NES. That's because once again this isn't just a twofer of games, this is a collection of 5 games. 5 of the best games Nintendo has ever released in Super Mario All-Stars and Super Mario World. One of the greatest gaming compilations of all time. Now unfortunately you cannot get a CIB copy of this game for under £10, but you can get the cart only of this game from CX today for just £6. That's just over £1 for 5 of the greatest games Nintendo has ever released, and 5 games not only everyone needs in their collection, but they need to play. We're sticking with the 16-bit generation, but moving from Nintendo to Sega with the Sega Mega Drive. But this game does come with a little bit of a caveat. You are going to have to get lucky to pick up this compilation of games for under £10. Now eBay prices are around £12 without the manual. Of course you could pick up a copy of this game cheaper loose. The game in question is Mega Games 2, a compilation once again of 3 of the best games ever released for the Sega Mega Drive: Revenge of Shinobi, Streets of Rage and Golden Axe. Now if you bought all of these games separately from CX it would cost you £19 for cart only. but Golden Axe is out of stock. So I reckon it's worth keeping an eye on eBay and trying to pick up this amazing compilation of games for around £10. Next up, we're moving on to the N64, a fantastic console to collect for and one you can still collect for on a budget. And we're going to talk about one of the greatest retro games of all time, GoldenEye 007. Once again, yes, this is a CIB copy of the game, but you can buy a loose, cart-only copy of this incredible game, which not only has a fantastic single player, but has one of the greatest split-screen multiplayer games of all time for just £8. And trust me, folks, if you get 4 friends, 4 controllers, and a copy of this game, you are in for one of the greatest nights of your life. Next up, we're talking about the Sega Saturn, a console which doesn't get enough love because for me it's a perfect way to experience some of Sega's best arcade games in the comfort of your own home. And one of my favourite arcade games on the Sega Saturn is Sega Rally Championships. I have such fond memories of playing this at my local swimming pool when I was younger. I think I enjoyed it more than the swimming itself. It's such a good arcade game. It just personifies everything which was great about Sega in the arcades at that time. And to be able to play this in the comfort of your own home in 2025 for under £10, well worth the price. Back in the day, the main competition to the Sega Saturn was a newcomer to the home console scene, the Sony PlayStation. And while Sega Rally on the Sega Saturn was an incredible arcade racing simulation game, one of the greatest realistic racing games of all time on the Sony PlayStation was Gran Turismo 2, the sequel to a racing game which changed the genre forever. A racing game which everyone should play at least once, and you can still play it in 2025 for exactly £10. Next up, we have a game for the Nintendo GameCube, and one of my favourite gaming genres is survival horror. And for the longest time, the Nintendo GameCube was the best way to play this survival horror franchise, quite possibly the greatest survival horror franchise of all time, Resident Evil. And this remake of the original game on the GameCube changed this franchise forever. And like I said, this was the best way to play these original Resident Evil games for many, many years. To be able to play not only the remake, but Resident Evil 0, 2 and 3 on the GameCube, the graphics were far and away better than any other console. Nowadays we've had HD and even 4K remakes of these games, but for the longest time the GameCube was the best way to play these games, and honestly I'd still recommend playing this classic on the GameCube today for under £10. The PlayStation 2 is the best-selling console of all time, and it has one of the largest game libraries of any console ever. So picking just one game for this list was super hard, but I've picked this game for a multitude of reasons. Now, firstly, some people collect games as an investment. I collect them because I love to play them and I love owning my games. But this is a game which I predict over the course of this year will go up in value. At the moment, this game is just £10. But they are doing a remake of this game later in the year, and I predict that will push the price of this game slowly up. Now, of course, I could be wrong, but regardless, everyone should own a copy of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. In my humble opinion, it is the best game of one of the best gaming franchises of all time. This one just stands out for me as it has some of the best bosses of any game ever. Its mechanics are still incredible to this day. This is a game which I believe was 10 years ahead of its time, and honestly, going back and playing this game now in 2025, it more than stands the test of time. I don't really know if this game requires a remake, as for me it is near on perfection, but you need to own this game. Whether you go back and play the original or buy the remake, I'm just glad in 2025 more people are going to be able to play Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Which brings us to the final game on our list, and this game is for the Sega Dreamcast. And much like the Sega Saturn earlier on, the Sega Dreamcast was the best way to play Sega arcade games in the comfort of your own home. Now this one is a wild card, but hear me out. If you've never played this game, you may not understand how much fun this game is, because you wouldn't believe it from the title. Sega Bass Fishing. I know it's a fishing game, but if you never played this back in the day in the arcade, you will not know that this game is super fun. It is mainly though made fun by the fishing rod controller. Now, I didn't know until I was doing research for this list how expensive this controller had become, and also seemingly rare. The official Sega Dreamcast fishing rod peripheral at CEX would cost you £50, but it's out of stock. There must be a lot of keen gaming fishermen wanting to play this game, but you can pick up a copy of Sega Bass Fishing today from CEX complete for just £8. And honestly, give it a go. You'll be surprised how much you will enjoy a fishing game. There we have it then, folks. That was 10 retro games that everyone needs for their collection, all of which were £10 or under. But when it comes to retro game collecting, you can spend any amount of money. At the end of the day, everyone collects differently, and there is no wrong way to collect. The main thing is, however much you're spending, as long as you enjoy collecting, that's the main thing. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this one, please comment down below and leave a comment down below your favourite retro banger for under £10. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, and as always, keep playing the game. See you all soon!